Coming up today, raining in North Korea will be high on President Park Geun-hye's to-do list when she jets off to Washington this week for the Nuclear Security Summit. South Korea's political parties set up their election campaign committees ahead of the April 13th general election. Official campaigning begins on Thursday. First, for the first time since the end of World War II, Japan's military is now permitted to fight on foreign soil as a law passed last year takes effect. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, March 29th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye travels to Washington this week for talks with world leaders attending the Nuclear Security Summit in the U.S. capital. Her first trip of the year, which comes at a time of increased inter-Korean tension and nuclear threats out of Pyongyang, will be packed with sideline meetings. President Park will hold bilateral summits with the leaders of the U.S., China and Japan during her time in Washington. Our Song Ji-sun starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye is set to embark on an 8-day trip Wednesday to attend a nuclear security summit in Washington, followed by summit talks in Mexico City. Park's official schedule begins with a reception and dinner hosted by U.S. President Barack Obama at the White House on Thursday. At the plenary on Friday, 50-plus state representatives will assess their achievements since the last summit and seek ways to strengthen cooperation for increased nuclear security. But what happens outside the summit venue is just as important. Japanese media earlier reported that South Korea, Japan and the U.S. will hold trilateral summit talks on the sidelines, mainly to discuss North Korea's nuclear issue. Bilateral talks between the leaders of Korea and Japan are also likely in a follow-up to their first summit talks 5 months ago. President Park would then fly to Mexico City for a summit with her Mexican counterpart, Enrique Peña Nieto. Mexico, a strategic cooperative partner with Seoul, is the second largest economy in Central and South America with a GDP worth over $1.2 trillion. It also acts as a bridge linking North and South America. 12 Korean companies utilize Mexico as a stepping stone to enter the Americas. A business entourage representing 144 companies and organizations will accompany the presidential delegation. Her visit to Mexico is the first overseas trip to be made since UN sanctions on Pyongyang went into effect. President Park and Peña Nieto will also discuss ways for strict implementation of sanctions on North Korea. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, Seoul's defense chief has stressed that the South Korean military has the capability to counter North Korea's multiple rocket launchers and long-range artillery. Han Min-gu shared his confident message with frontline troops on Monday. Oh Jung-hee reports.
South Korea will counter North Korea's threat of multiple rocket launchers and long-range artillery systems. This was the message delivered by South Korean Defense Minister Han Min-gu during his visit to a Cheonmu multiple launch rocket system unit on Monday.
Our military should powerfully retaliate and wipe out North Korea's will to make further provocations. We'll have to reinforce that such provocations will lead to self-destruction.
His visit comes after North Korea fired multiple rocket launchers last week that flew some 200 kilometers into the East Sea. If the North's 300mm multiple rocket launchers are dispatched at the demilitarized zone, it can target the American base in Pyeongtaek, the Air Force Base in Cheongju, and the Gaeryong military headquarters. In response to these threats, the Defense Ministry revealed earlier in the day that the South Korean Army is building up its weapons program to effectively defend against North Korea's missiles.
We are building up an integrated anti-artillery system to counter recent threats from the north. The technologies of the Cheonmu MLRS, Atakims and Slam-ER will be integrated to create a new attack system.
The Chunmoo MLRS, adopted last year, is a system that can fire 12 rockets with a maximum range of 80 kilometers. The ATACMS, or the Army Tactical Missile System, can fly up to 300 kilometers surface to surface and destroy an area equivalent to 3 to 4 soccer fields. In addition to these attack systems, the SLAM-ER cruise missiles can be air-launched, reaching 200 kilometers. In line with the South Korean Army's efforts, President Park Geun-hye has called soldiers to maintain a thorough military readiness posture. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, could North Korea be cracking under tough new UN sanctions and the ongoing joint South Korea-US military drills taking place on the Korean peninsula? Now, it's hard to say for sure, but the regime state media is defiant, saying Pyongyang is more determined than ever to resist international pressure. Connie Kim reports.
The North's daily Dodong-Shinmun on Monday hinted at the possibility of a second arduous march, indicating that the regime is feeling pressured following UN sanctions and the largest ongoing South Korea-US military drills. The arduous march is a propaganda campaign launched by Pyongyang in the 1990s during the famine that killed some 3.5 million people. It's the first time the daily has used the term arduous march since UN sanctions were imposed on Pyongyang following its fourth nuclear test and long-range missile launch. The heaviest UN sanctions to date on Pyongyang include inspections of all cargo in and out of North Korea by air, sea, or land, and limiting coal, iron, and gold exports. While the sanctions are designed to pressure the North to give up its nuclear weapons program, experts on North Korea say that China's participation will be crucial to cutting off funds for Pyongyang's nuclear weapons development.
The UN Security Council Resolution 2270 allows for iron and coal exports to cover livelihood purposes. How effective UN sanctions are will depend on China's interpretation of those needs.
China has a history of loosening sanctions on Pyongyang, its traditional ally, just as it did in 2013 after North Korea conducted its third nuclear test. Beijing recently negotiated the reinstatement of 4 ships that were blacklisted for illicit activities, allowing Pyongyang to engage in international trade. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now it's almost time for South Korea's political parties to hit the street and start winning the hearts of voters. The official campaign period for the April 13th general election begins on Thursday morning. In preparation, the parties have launched special committees to ensure they're all singing from the same song sheet. Ji Myung-gil with the details.
The ruling Saenuri Party has adjusted its leadership with the April 13th election in mind. The collective leadership is composed of 5 members from the pro and non-pro PAC factions of the party. The faction of the Saenuri Party loyal to President Park Geun-hye and those led by party chairman Kim Moo-sung renewed their pledges on Monday to recover a parliamentary majority after weeks of factional strife over the candidate nominations.
No more internal rifts remain in our Saenuri Party. Our only goal is to win the upcoming general election. By gaining victory, we will strengthen national security, boost the stagnant economy, and create more jobs.
On the other side, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea said it will focus its election pledges and party platform upon economic issues.
The upcoming election will be Judgment Day for the Saenuri Party's 8 years of flawed economic policies. The Minju Party will strive to achieve its vision to harmonize distribution and growth while promoting democracy.
Kim Jong-in, the interim leader of the Minju Party, was in the central city of Daejeon on Monday for meetings with some of the party's candidates. The Minju Party also withdrew its campaign pledge to move the National Assembly to the administrative city of Sejong from Seoul, as leader Kim said the pledge needed more time for reviewing. The minor opposition People's Party has expanded its election committee with 6 co-chairmen, leading a nationwide campaign, up from the original 4. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
A new security law which enables Japanese troops to fight in foreign wars for the first time since World War II takes effect on this Tuesday. The controversial law, backed by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's ruling coalition, is intended to strengthen Japan's defense against the growing security threat posed by China and North Korea. The law loosens post-World War II constraints on the use of force by the military to its own self-defense only. Japan's opposition parties, which were unsuccessful in their attempt to block the legislation last year, say the law is unconstitutional. Japan's neighbours, including South Korea, have expressed concern too, given Japan's history of aggression in the region. Japanese citizens also seem to fear the law could erode Japan's post-war pacifism. A poll conducted by Tokyo-based Kyodo News last weekend found nearly 50% of respondents were not in favour. Just 39% viewed the changes in a positive light. With the ongoing controversy, sources say Abe will postpone assigning new missions to the self-defence forces until after the House of Councillors election this summer. A gunman has been taken into custody after firing shots at the Capitol Visitors Center in Washington, D.C. Officials say visitors and staff were shut in their offices and told to shelter in place. Now, initial reports said a police officer sustained minor injuries, but later reports seemed to indicate that was incorrect. The U.S. Capitol building was placed on lockdown for about an hour after the shooting. No word yet on a possible motive for this. The White House was also placed on lockdown for half an hour due to a separate event when a man was apprehended trying to jump the fence. The only person arrested and charged with involvement in the Brussels terror attacks has been released for lack of evidence. Belgian prosecutors say the clues that led to the arrest of the man, known only as Faycal C, were not substantiated by the ongoing investigation. He was initially charged with participation in a terrorist group and terrorist killings. Now, in an attempt to find that man there, the third suspect, Belgian police have released that CCTV footage of the so-called man-in-hat suspect in the Brussels attacks. It's believed he fled the airport after his bomb failed to go off. The suspect, as we just saw, was wearing a white jacket, a hat, and was seen pushing a baggage cart with a suitcase on it. Last week's suicide bombings killed at least 35 people in Brussels. Around 100 are still receiving treatment in hospital for their injuries. Now, on a much lighter note, there's a lot more to Korea than Seoul. But the problem is, most tourists coming here rarely venture outside of the capital. And it's with this in mind that the government has set up a number of unique programs aimed at giving visitors the full Korea experience. Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Korea has launched a bus service catering to foreign tourists to promote tourism in the country's provincial regions. Organized by the Visit Korea Committee, the K-Travel Bus Package offers convenient services at a low price. For an overnight trip, packages can range from $150 to $170 per person. This group of 10 tourists had the chance to visit Korea's southern city of Dongyang.
This is my first time in Dongyang, and it's like what I felt in Busan. I fell in love right away. Anything, like everything has prepared for you. The food, the transportation and everything. Even like the guide is also there to help you with the explanation if there's no like English translation. It's great.
One of the best things about this program is that we are able to bond with other foreign tourists during the trip. I would definitely recommend the bus travel program to acquaintances back in my home country.
Another rising trend in the local tourism sector that is attracting large groups of foreigners is incentive travel, in which foreign companies send employees on vacation to Korea as a reward for their hard work. 6,000 tourists from China, the largest group to visit Korea at a time, are divided into groups to see this tourist attraction in Songdo, Incheon City. Attracting incentive travel is a major focus for the local tourism sector due to potentially huge profitability for the regions.
The 6,000 Chinese tourists visiting as a result of incentive travel is estimated to generate $10.3 million for the city of Incheon. It also helps boost the image of the city as a tourist destination and offers foreigners another destination besides the traditional tourist regions of Jeju Island and the capital of Seoul.
To attract large numbers of tourists like Incheon has, the professor says that provincial cities need to devise ways to accommodate tens of thousands of tourists at a time and provide large venues for recreation as well as dining options. He also says that there's a need for better cultural content and exhibition programs that are unique to each region. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, those are stories we've been following on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. We also have a smartphone application where you can check out all the latest programs and news as well. Just search for Arirang TV in your app store. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.